talking about the journey that Hemsley Fraser has been on in the last 18 months. Could we start with you giving us an overview of what you've seen happen to Hemsley Fraser over that period of time?
Sure. Well, over the last 18 months, we've seen an enormous amount of change. We've been really driving a transformation journey in the business for the last 5 years. But I would say in the last 18 months, that's just been sped up so much. It's almost, it's just really been driven through at such a faster pace than anything else that we've been through. We started thinking about our digital capabilities and some of the more blended ways of thinking about learning over the last 5 years. And that really put us in a great position for when the pandemic hit in March of last year. Even though we'd worked really, we'd done a lot of work in terms of our digital strategy and thinking about the blend, we were still predominantly a face-to-face learning business. And I would say probably 80% face-to-face learning business in terms of where our revenues came from. So overnight, that changed. Like many of us in the learning industry, we had to be so quick in terms of our leadership and our thinking around how to pivot, how to be agile, and how to shift our services and products to meet the need of a very quick changing market, and certainly with everybody working at home and being able to really utilise all of the work that we had done throughout that kind of digital transformation period, so that we had almost fully digital blended experiences that we could offer our customers.
You mentioned that we've been on this longer journey for 5 years and that it's sped up rapidly. What were the specific things that Hemsley Fraser had in place to do that quick pivot, that quick change? What sort of skills did we have within the business already?
Yeah, I mean, we were really fortunate that we had a digital team, and in there we brought in skills like all of our graphic designers, our creative content builders, our film and editing experts. We also had started our transformation in terms of our virtual offer and thinking about how to deliver the best in class virtual classroom, and thinking about how we flip a lot of our materials into that. That had all been part of a process that we'd gone through for the last 5 years, and something that we call our core, which is our core content, which is over 100 topics that we had flipped into virtual and digital assets, so that you could have that almost blended experience in a fully kind of digital or working from home format, which certainly stood us in great stead, and that we had a framework for some of the skills that we needed. It was what was the challenge was the scale to which we then had to produce everything. So it was a part of our business, maybe a 20% part of our business, and suddenly became the business.
As well as the framework and the structure, we've spoken before about innovation and creativity, the DNA of the business. Do you think that helped Hemsley Fraser to adapt quickly and evolve what we were doing at that time?
Absolutely. And in those first couple of weeks, it was like, it was a battle cry. Everybody came together. It was, thinking through things really collaboratively, but having to really think through things quickly in terms of new pricing, new policies, new processes, and looking at how we could redeploy staff as well. We had a number of venues that were face-to-face learning venues, and we needed to think around how do we use staff in a different way, and look at how we can upskill people as producers or as project managers. So there was a whole raft of different work that needed to be done to really get through this pivot. And we managed to do that with really quite some pace, which has stood us in really good stead for stabilising and growing the business this year. So something we're incredibly proud of, the pace in which we could really think about making that shift.
And where are we now? All those things have changed. An awful lot has happened. Where do you see Hemsley Fraser, the business, today?
Yeah, and it's a great question, and I think, you know, our whole industry in terms of learning and development has been through something that is so different in terms of the last 18 months, and really rethinking about what does learning mean to an organisation. For us, I think we struggled a little bit for a while in thinking, okay, so with all the changes that we're making in the innovation, does that make us a digital company? Does that make us a design company? Does it make us an engagement company? And actually, I think where we've come back to is actually we're a learning company, but the learning is so much broader. The meaning of learning is so much broader within an organisation, because it encapsulates communication, engagement, encapsulates knowledge management, sharing knowledge, as well as, you know, your kind of historic learning experiences. But learning is no more about a one-off event. It really is about combining all of these different things together and pulling them together to really have value to the individual, but also to the enterprise. And what's key around what learning means is also the data that comes out and being able to tell fantastic stories with the data. So for us, I think the real shift for us has been around the expansion of what does learning mean for ourselves and what does it mean for other organisations, especially as we go back into a new workplace, a workplace of the future, and back into hybrid working.